Hi, I'm restarting the game that I started of Leros, the second scenario, which is essentially the paradrop of a battalion of Fallschirmjäger somewhere, wherever you like. That's three full companies and an elite company of coastal attackers against all of these British forces. You've got one, two, three, four full companies, two battalion asset groups, five full companies, six full companies. Sorry, two battalion asset groups. You've got anti-aircraft guns, a company of anti-aircraft guns, company of anti-tank machine guns, long range desert group, SBS, and some artillery. And the reason why I've restarted again is because I realised that my planning for the British op sheet had not allowed them to do anything, because their historical op sheet is a prepared defence, and in my reading of the rules I was trying to understand what exactly does the prepared defence mean. You draw sort of the area you're defending, I guess, but how big can that area be? How much can you move around in it? And there's no real restriction in the rules upon that. So what I had done is I just each British force has a hex. These blue cubes are marking the hexes where they have to set up within, and I put these little. I started again because I had to construct the setup, and these say where. So, for example, the units have set up within 5 hexes of that, 3 of that, 2 of that one, etc. And there's particular units in those particular areas, and I'll just put them in those areas. Said they're in prepared defence, and essentially, if you move out of prepared defence, you've lost it. So, on turn 3 of the game, I suddenly realised, I don't know how the Brits can respond at all, and it was looking like the Germans could just move at will, being sort of their movement being interdicted, and would attack if they wanted or not. So I scrapped the game and realised I had to be a bit clever with the British op sheet, but I realised you have to do a lot of planning before the planning, as it were, because the op sheet is a planning of what's going to happen, and the op sheet itself needs a lot of planning. So I'm sorry, I made the mistake of letting my son some time ago play with the camera tripod, and it's now broken, so you have to bear with the wobble vision at the moment. And sorry about that glare. If I don't have some sort of light over here, it's too dark under the. You see, I've got a shelf there. So I'll try and give you an idea of what's going on. So, okay, we have the Kurst company, the elite German coastal raider force coming in here, and then the Fallschirmjägers represented here, which I had dropping around that area before. I could choose wherever I like. And then this is how the Brits are situated. So you've got a company here which have to set up within 4 hexes of this point. You've got a company here, so that's D Kings. You've got the A Irish company sets up within 3 hexes of there. You've got the B Irish set up within 3 hexes of there. You've got the D Irish set up within 5 hexes of there, so they could set up all the way up to about here, or all the way back to about here. Then you have light anti-aircraft, 4 Bofors guns that can set up anywhere, and 3 anti-tank guns which can set up anywhere, and all of those above named units are in prepared defence. Now, as you can see there, so they can set up there, or there, and these red discs mark the objective hexes. They're quite a long way from all the objective hexes. So then we have another look and we say, okay, all of this lot are in reserve. So they unassigned at start, but they can be given, they can set up on the same op sheet as some of these fellows, but be given a different order, so they might be able to have attack orders. And this is where I have to get clever in my ops sheets, because previously I just said everyone's on prepared defence, and I didn't look into the reserves and so forth, but it's going to be necessary for the British defence. So essentially these, what you have here is the King's Battalion assets. So there's three 3-inch mortars, 2 machine gun sections, and 2 actual platoons of infantry, and they're quite strong. They're stronger than either of the German ones, but their morale's not as good as the elite folks. Anyway, they set up within 4 hexes of there as well, the same as the D Kings. So the D Kings are on prepared defence, and these fellows are in reserve. So my thought is keep the guys in prepared defence in their defensive positions, but use the reserves to throw up and seize victory objectives or counter-attack them. Then we have Sea Irish here. They begin the game taking 2 hits, and they have to set up within 4 hexes of here. These guys, the German guys, have also taken, I think, 2 or 3 hits. So they've obviously been fighting before this scenario starts. But interestingly enough, the Sea Irish are in reserve. They are not in prepared defence. So I think what we're saying is perhaps they were in prepared defence and they've been thrown out of it. So they're in reserve. So they could maybe be given move orders to get out of the way. Or my thought is to send them up to take the castle here, which is completely undefended. There's no defenders near it. Then we also have Irish battalion assets. So 3 3-inch mortars, 2 machine gun sections, and like the previous one, 2 strong platoons. They can set up anywhere, or within 3 hexes of this. They're kind of like the Irish battalion headquarters area. So that is near here. So they could very handily be thrown up from reserve straight into counter-attack, or I think I'd have to call it attack position to take that, and then be given subsequent orders to defend. And you can actually, oh no, the same unit cannot be given 2 different orders on the same sheet. So say if a force here was thrown up there to attack, it could not then defend on the same op sheet. I'd have to generate a new op sheet, and within the time constraint this scenario, that's not really going to implement. So then I would need someone else to defend, because the attackers will become unassigned and will essentially not only be able to fire in defense, not proactive like suppressive fire. So handily, we've got the B Kings company here, and there's actually they're very weak units. They're 1 strength point each, but they're 3 long-range desert group and 3 special boat service folks, which set up within 2 hexes, so it's not a very big radius of that point there. So some of them could be actually within the town of Leros itself, but the point is they can be used as perhaps defensive force against these folks, or like I said, move up and defend Mount Meraviglia there. Then finally we have the machine gun battalion forces and the artillery, and they can set up anywhere. So I think essentially the artillery will probably set up somewhere back here and be defended by the folks that are dug in around here, and the machine gun battalions will be scattered throughout, and the machine gun battalion sections will be scattered throughout the other units. So that's the way it is. So the red ones mark dug in and the purple ones mark reserve forces. So it meant I had to go back to the ops sheets, and I think I could stand the camera down here, couldn't I? So I went back to the ops sheets, and these are just the scribbled. It's not the finest sheet to show what I was showing you there. So we got D Irish dug in there, A Irish dug in here, B Irish dug in here, D Kings dug in here, and then we've got Kings, so that's the furthest south, Then there's other groups, the B Kents with the SBS Lawrence Desert Group, the Sea Irish there who have taken some hits, and the King's battalion there, and the Irish battalions can be sort of scattered. So we got these ones are reserves and these ones are dug in. So we're seeing we got reserves here. It's purple on the edge of that red. I don't know if you can tell. It's a bit dark, isn't it? Sorry about that. We've got reserves here, 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 and here essentially. And then some Irish reserves which could be put up here, seeing as the Irish battalion can go anywhere or around this point. And then these yellow-green dots mark the victory hexes. So you can see this is where I'm having to go with planning a clever offshoot whereby, and basically I can have 2 British offshoots implemented at any one time. So I think, and I can start the game with offshoots implemented. So I think I could have 2 offshoots. I might be able to put them all on one as far as I can understand possibilities, because you can have different forces doing different things on the same offshoot, as long as I think this offshoot would be counted as prepared defense, which is kind of the hardest to get. But then you can have attack orders, move orders within that. It's just that if you try to implement the offshoot, it would take the prepared defense the hardest bit to implement. So I understand I can have kind of like easier to implement orders underneath a harder to implement order on the same offshoot. But it might, I don't know, I haven't decided what would be the benefit of using 2 offshoots. Do I perhaps split it so that you have the Irish, heavy Irish sort of thrust here and the more British Irish combined offshoot down here? But this is what I'm looking at essentially. So these will be reserve units, Irish battalions reserve units. I'm saying let's go over here, and they will take Quaranta. That's a victory objective. There's a victory objective here, Mount Ratchie Ridge. I've left that for the time being. The B Kents, we want to take Mount Meravilia, victory objective here, and the Kings are going to counterattack against the German units that will undoubtedly have taken that victory objective there, Mount Apache. But then the Sea Irish, who've been somewhat dusted, they're going to move up and take Castle Leros, which is unguarded underneath my writing there, which is another victory objective. So take victory objective, take victory objective, take victory objective, take victory objective, leave that one to the Germans, because I just don't think we have enough reserves to take any more. So the B Kents, that would be along with the SBS, but the things, the SBS and the Lawrence Desert Group, they are unassigned, but they don't have they can do suppressive fires and they can roam at will. They do not need offshoots like the Fallschirmjägers on their first day. So they can actually be put where they can actually go wherever that they're going to find them helpful. So if that is lightly defended or untaken, they could just whiz up and get that, or likewise any other place towards the end of this scenario. So that's my thoughts now. If anyone's got any thoughts or comments on what would be the benefit of having 2 separate offshoots, I don't see any at present, because I understand that I could have all those guys I previously showed dug in various places around here as the main part of the offshoot. Then these would all be reserves on the offshoot given attack and orders. And again, another question that raises to me is, can a unit that is sets up here be given orders to defend something over there? So can they move to the area they're going to defend? I don't see, there's nothing that I've read in the rules that says no, but my immediate sense is defend orders are given to people that are in a place or are expected to be at a place. Well, yeah, that's it. I mean, you might give an order to 2 battalions, 1 battalion attack a place, then the other battalion follow up and defend it. So yeah, they could move and then defend. So I think that these reserves can be sent somewhere to defend. So I think that's going to happen. The only question then is trying to be quite cunning, anticipating the German Fallschirmjägers, etc. We know where these are. Basically, they're going to take that and then might try for that or that. So, we can block them here and counterattack, and they can take Leros, so it won't be easy. So that we're going to hem the Germans in there, but we don't know where the paratroopers are landing. So if I say you guys go and defend 40, by the time they're coming near it, they would have to, it's been taken by the Germans. Their orders would have to be declared failed. I don't think I can send guys in attacking to defend, quite obviously. So, and I can't give them attack then defend orders. That would have to be two separate parts. So you can see, if I had lots more forces, obviously it would be an easy job. But you can see the exciting, interesting conundrums this game develops. And it's very interesting because there's such a lot that can go into the planning. I can imagine it could be quite a frustrating game if you go around to a friend's house and you say, okay, this weekend, or today, whatever, we're going to play this game, and you get it all out, set it up, and then you go, actually, we need to spend all morning planning what we're going to do before we even move any counters. But for me, as a solitaire gamer, it's a beaut because, it's every part, even the preparation is part of playing the game. As a solitaire gamer, you don't feel like you're losing out on not, interacting with your opponent. Okay, you can't chat to someone while you do it, but it's all at leisure. So I'm really enjoying all this planning and stuff. But it's interesting how all the planning it takes. So look, I've got that. I had to draw all these designs on here. It takes a lot. Obviously, I guess it will get better. The more I do this, the more I could visualize all this in my mind's eye upon looking at a map sheet. And I guess that is what happens in military training and combat operations. So, yeah, although I've had to restart because I realised it was going to be a bit of a boring game. What I did do initially taught me quite a lot about the game, essentially how much fire moving troops take and even how much fire firing troops take. So every time you move into a hex and every time you fire, you can come under return fire from the enemy. And that, I guess, is realistic, but it means a heavy amount of fire compared to other games where you move, then enemy might shoot, or some other games where you have opportunity fire, but not it's kind of used up quickly. Whereas this, it could go on for as long as you keep doing something. And I did actually, I found I had an old operations magazine. I've only got one, and it had some commentary upon the very early stages of the TCS series, and it was actually, I think, before the version 3.0 rules, which I've got, so after the first 2 or 3 games. And there was one fellow complaining about the fact that because you can what's it called in these rules? It's not opportunity fire, but it's, anyway, you know what I mean. The opportunity fire can be fired for every hex you move into, and he pointed out that means you get crazy things. So if you have a tank which can move very fast in comparison to an infantry unit which cannot move very fast, within any given turn the infantry unit might move, say, 3 hexes, so they could have what's that fire called? The overwatch fire. They could have overwatch fired at them 3 times in each of those hexes, whereas a tank in the same time span, travelling at a faster speed, maybe 10 or 15 hexes, could be fired at 10 or 15 times. And as I understand it, in the original rules, that was any it could be the same stack or unit or stack firing at you in each of those hexes. And I think, as I read in these rules, it's the same thing. So there's no limit to the amount of overwatch a stack or a unit can fire, and there's no inherent limit to the amount of triggers you can create as you're moving, which, although this is mostly just infantry, there's a possibility of some German half-tracks turning up, not in this scenario. I don't have that problem, but it would be interesting. I've got 2 more TCS games which I'd like to get into at some point. Be interesting to see that. what chance a moving tank does have if it can be attacked, say 15 times in its movement. Okay, that's all I think I can say for now. See you later.